Welcome back to the 0 to 100K series. Throughout the journey, we've been breaking down how a TikTok shop brand is scaling from zero to an ambitious $100,000 in meta ad revenue within just 8 weeks. Spoiler alert, we didn't get there, but we made significant progress, contributing over $66,000 in revenue at a positive 1.6x MER and above break-even customer acquisition cost. In this series, we covered everything from setting up a new Facebook ad account and navigating the initial scaling challenges to implementing strategies that cut CPA by 50% and understanding the evolving landscape of meta ads in 2026. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with arguably the most crucial piece of the puzzle, Amy, our creative strategist. With a decade of experience blending storytelling and marketing insights, Amy has been instrumental in shaping the compelling narratives that drive all of our campaigns at Growth Collective. Welcome, Amy.
Hi.
Hi. Amy, you've been working on the Chalkbox account alongside me in the background since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started working on Chalkbox account, let's tell our viewers who've been asking time and time again in the comments, how did we approach creative strategy and what was the core story you wanted to communicate and how you wanted the brand to be positioned?
Well, the core of it and the heart of Chalkbox is, its roots starting as a TikTok brand. So that was something that I definitely wanted to not only keep in mind, but keep it as kind of our ethos for how I was approaching it and how we would deliver creatives for them across the board. So, the heart of TikTok is very much organic style storytelling. It's raw, it's unfiltered, it's loud. It's all about the hooks. It's all about the creative visuals. So I wanted to make sure that carried over when we were doing the paid advertisements, obviously tailored a little bit more in a way that would speak to a meta audience. So that was the biggest thing for me going into this, was making sure that we kept the heart of that so that it would come across as genuine for viewers, both new and old.
So how did that play into the type of ads that you made? Because on TikTok, it's all, they're marketplace led, they're creator marketplace led, right? So they're working with a lot of TikTok shop creators, and Meta doesn't necessarily translate everything, right? Like on TikTok shop, you can have something taken out of context with just showing the product and showing the crunch, and it's going to perform because organically those creators' followers are like, wow, what is that? And they're super interested in the product is within the video. But we don't have that option on Meta. So how did you first approach the first batch of ads and try and translate that over?
Well, what's nice is that ads as a whole are really leaning more towards that organic feel, whether it's from a TikTok brand or otherwise. Viewers and audiences are getting a lot smarter in terms of what they recognize as an ad right away and what they are taking seriously versus not seriously. As you know, and as I'm sure viewers can attest to, when you go on social media, you're not going to be sold to. You're really going to be entertained. And that, like I said, is really bleeding over into Meta as well. So that really worked in our favor, taking a TikTok brand over onto Meta. So I really tried to keep, again, as honest as I could to where they started and leaning into, the creator-led type of advertisements when it comes to video. And then when it comes to statics, bold, loud, unapologetic, like the brand is, was able to have a little bit of fun and cheekiness with it because that's really, again, who the brand is. So I didn't want to lose that. And I think that was what really drove the majority of my thought process in terms of the creatives.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, translating the success that they're seeing on one platform, they're achieving that success for a very logical reason. They didn't get it randomly, like they built it up and they kind of defined what their positioning looks like and how they want their cold marketing to look like. Well, it's the first touch point, right? So how did you approach the first batch of ads, right? Like how did you work alongside the brand owner, operator, to understand what's working, what's not working? And given that they were only advertising on TikTok and nothing on Meta, meaning no statics whatsoever, how did you encapsulate and really capture their brand essence and ethos within statics as well?
Yeah. So the very first thing I did, aside from just doing a deep dive into all of their past TikToks, was I looked at their website, because that's going to be, unlike TikTok, where they're selling directly in TikTok Shop, all of our ads were going to be leading to their website. So I wanted to look at that and see, what it looked like, what the story they were telling on their website is. And I wanted to make sure that the story that we were telling in the ads and the visuals that we were using were cohesive from beginning to end. So if we look at their website, I can share my screen, pretty much what I've been saying in terms of loud, unapologetic, they're fun, they're not afraid to have fun. There's moving graphics, and you can see right away that visual storytelling is as much a part of the brand as is obviously, the taste that creators will speak to, or the ASMR aspect of the crack and the gooiness, etc. So they really try to carry that over into all of their visuals, in addition to what they're showing on TikTok. Unfortunately, smell-o-vision and taste-vision doesn't exist yet. So it's really a matter of how do we tell this in a visual story from beginning to end. So they also play into their TikTok creatives on their website as well. They're boxing all of their visuals from their packaging down to everything else is really colorful. It's eye-catching. So it plays into that narrative of being loud and show-stopping. So that's something that I definitely wanted to keep in mind when I was doing the first statics. I wanted to carry this kind of style over. So obviously we mimicked we repeated the brand fonts and the brand colors. And I wanted to mirror basically in what we were saying about them. So trying to make sure everything was cohesive. There's a story from beginning to end. Showing, the close-ups, the visuals of the chocolate, the breaking, what's inside, I think is most important, especially when you're looking at a brand that does Dubai chocolate, which is, started on social media as becoming this like explosive, wonderful thing. So thankfully, most people already kind of know what it is, but then it was kind of taking it to the next level, because Chalkbox started really with, we're not just selling a Dubai chocolate bar, we're selling one that you can make and stuff yourself. So that was something that I wanted to make sure was clear in the storytelling as well. And then in terms of caption copy, I wanted to have fun with it. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't dry and it really spoke to the brand itself. Very similar to their style on the website. And I mean, Break Me is about as social media friendly and as fun as you can get. And this was kind of the starting point. We had a bit of like the brown chocolate background, and we expanded as well too with some of the launch statics that we did. So you can see, I'll show like most of the larger ones. We really wanted to show not only like the character of the brands and their brand voice, but obviously the inside as well, because we're looking at this visually, especially for somebody who's never seen the brand for the first time and maybe who doesn't necessarily even know what Dubai chocolate is. This is going to get you to stop scrolling because it looks great.
Yeah.
You kind of want to know what's inside it, you want to eat it, and you want to stuff it.
Yeah, it's funny because anytime I see one of the images, I'm like, wow, I want this in my mouth right now.
Yeah.
You actually said something which I want to go a little bit deeper on that really resonates with me, which is it's very difficult for someone to get the sense of taste and smell over the internet. You can't.
No.
And so having a polarizing, fun, and descriptive type of image that can relate to those senses as much as possible is where we want to be. It wants to be polarizing. I feel like, I've never tried one of the bars, but if I did, like, I'm just imagining, I've seen enough videos to know, like, that's a crunchy, delicious, sweet bar. And like, if you've ever had chocolate,
yep,
there's that dopamine hit, right? Exactly. And so I feel as though it's a perfect fit for TikTok Shop right now, right? Like you as in the brand Chalkbox is really playing into a platform that provides you with those quick dopamine hits, much like it does when you want to bite into the chocolate. And That I think is why, maybe we'll get into this shortly, why I think video has always outperformed statics, is because you can try and relay that feeling in the most accurate way possible and realistic way possible, which you can't do via static. Although, we tried, and we pull all those like polarizing thumb stopping images that are fun and really are tailored towards the demographic, which is basically males, females below the age of 30, right? Which is accurately and relevant towards like TikTok as a platform, but also on Meta and Instagram, which is the entire play here, right? Like, how do we expand our media channels? How do we add contribution margin through different sales channels? And we have to be very strategic with how we do that. So with that being said, let's head into the next question, which is, we know you're a storyteller at heart. When you're mapping out creative for the e-com brand, how does the story you tell different audiences differ between some that haven't heard of the brand versus have heard of the brand? What feeling, what message, what positioning do you want to put out there when you're approaching e-com? And what did you do specifically within the Chalkbox account?
Yeah. So when I'm looking at creative as a whole, definitely if I'm looking top of funnel, somebody who doesn't know the brand, I want to make sure that I get the story in the shortest amount of time possible, which of course doesn't sound easy. It's not easy. Getting across as quickly as possible who this brand is, obviously what it is they're selling, and what can you as the viewer, as the potential buyer, get out of it. So obviously that goes into breaking down by audience. Who am I speaking to predominantly? Whether it's, you start with the main sect of who the purchases are. So like you said, it's for Chalkbox, there's the males and females under 30, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. Who is buying and for what purpose? And how do I take the story of the brand and their ethos and direct it towards that particular customer? When it comes to Chalkbox, if I'm looking at top of funnel, the biggest thing is, the art of it and what's going to stop the scroll, essentially, which, as you said, is, taking the deliciousness of a chocolate bar and the, ooh, I want to eat that visuals, and kind of bring that front and center to have that as the first, the art, the visual hook. And I think that works for whether or not it's a customer who's never heard of it or somebody who's kind of heard of it before, but they're not quite sure. ASMR for this brand in particular plays a huge part in that. It played a huge part on TikTok, and it plays a huge part on Meta as well, because, we have the crack of the bar, things that, people can relate to, can speak to, somebody eating it. Again, you get that crunch, you get the visual of, the stuffing coming over. It's messy, doesn't matter. It's delicious. Again, unapologetic. You want to eat it. Basically, you're not here to be pretty about it. You're here to eat something good, and something that you might not necessarily have seen before. Because yes, we've seen Dubai chocolate bars, but have we seen it, a make it yourself kit? That's where Chalkbox comes in, and that's where we can have fun with the visuals of, if the scroll stopper is the crack of the chocolate bar, then, the story can be that creator talking about making the bar themselves in their kitchen, getting to choose what ingredients exactly they're putting into it, and then getting to enjoy the finished product. So that's something that we definitely want to portray right away in the stop the scroll. And then when it comes to more of the conversion process and what's really going to translate into buying, is really the giftability factor of this product. That was the biggest angle for us in terms of, what was selling the product and what really spoke to viewers. So that was definitely where the direction that we took it in terms of starting to take that visual interest and leading to conversions with it. Gifting can go so many different ways. Obviously, there's the, want to say stereotypical Valentine's Day chocolate. We had a lot of fun with that. And we, made a little bit of fun of it in the visuals that we did when we were speaking to it, because, chocolate for Valentine's Day, what else is new? But hey, wait a minute. This is chocolate that you can make with your partner. It's a little bit more of an interesting activity than just presenting them with a box of chocolates. It's something that you guys can do to spend time together. You can get messy with it. You can have fun with it. So that's definitely a nice twist on that more classic angle. But I mean, it works for anybody. If you want to send it as a gift to someone, something fun. If somebody has kids, that would be a great play to do with it. So really, no matter who we were speaking to when it came to the conversion aspect, I wanted to keep the giftability aspect of it top of mind, because that's what's really going to get somebody to place it in their cart and check out, whether they're gifting it for themselves or whether they think, hey, this is a great idea for somebody else. Kind of looks like I put a lot of effort into it, but I didn't. I found this online. But it's a little bit more personal than just giving a pre-made chocolate bar. So
it seems to me as though, and I'm the one who ran the ads, but in terms of the message that the brand really wants to get across digitally, we're not selling a chocolate bar. We're selling a feeling and an experience, right? Exactly. So you can have the experience with actually making it with your partner, right? So I think one of the first tests that I ran in the first video was like relationship status, for example.
Yeah.
Which was one of the first angles that we started, and actually a very strong angle in terms of like performance. But actually making it with your partner is experience number one. But then, as you said, like, how do you get the thumb stopping, scroll stopping feeling across quickly? That's the experience of like audibly the crunch, right? And that was really the hook that crushed it, regardless of whether we're selling a pre-made chocolate bar or a kit itself. Like, it was the crunch that stopped the scroll.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I think you did a kick-ass job at making sure that every video that we're putting out there has that hook.
Yeah.
Our hook rates show it. But as we get a little bit deeper and we kind of talk about, different ICPs, different funnel stages, we launched in totality about 100 ads, 100 individual ads with a vast mix of different types and formats: carousels, statics, flex ads, video ads, UGC ads, whitelisting ads. I want to get to really like the meat here, which is what worked for the brand. And I have a few categories that I would like to ask you about, which I know that you prepped.
Yeah.
And so some of the largest asks when you're optimizing on any account is, hey, what's the common thread? Like, what is going to drive down our CPAs? What's going to increase our ROAS? What are people resonating with? And that comes in all different flavors, if you will. And one of the largest trends now, and really strategies that is working in meta ads is whitelisting. And so we ran a plethora of tests of whitelist ads versus branded ads. Do you have the aggregate data in terms of how we did?
I sure do.
All right, let's get into it.
So if we're looking at comparing the two, whitelisting, as you said, was really the larger driver, but there was a difference in terms of what each of them did. So whitelisting, at the end of the day, were the brands that really helped stop the scroll, get people interested, especially if it was if it was being whitelisted by a creator that they're familiar with. That was really the way to get that high, what's the word I'm looking for? To get, I guess, the cheap attention, for lack of a better word. So it was better for ROI because we have that trust factor of the person who's behind it. Whereas, again, branded UGC, it's good for getting just a little bit of additional information out there. So if we're looking at branded versus whitelist, branded was great for top of funnel, for getting the original hooks, the interest, the attention grab. Whitelist was similar in terms of being able to do the same, but because you have the trust factor behind it and behind those creators, especially that somebody is familiar with, whether it's on TikTok moving over to Meta or whether it's a creator who already does both, people really trust who they're watching or who they choose to fill their feeds with. So that was the bigger driver in terms of ROI and really getting the sale through. So both types had their time and place. The spend for the two of them was similar-ish. I mean, there was a couple more thousand going towards whitelist, but impressions, as you can see on the branded side, was a lot larger. But the ROAS was higher on the whitelisters. So really, this was the driver for actually getting people to want to convert. With
As I'm looking at this in real time with you, because this is aggregate data, I'm seeing that it's very clear that whitelist ads outperform branded ads from a conversion perspective.
Yeah.
Like our ROAS was, let's call it roughly 50% higher, 30 to 50% higher. We had more purchases. Our CPA was stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to see that it's actually more expensive via whitelist. Like if you look at CPMs, we're at $30 on the left, and $23 for branded on the right. And I think what's happening here is Meta actually is, with whitelisting, it hits especially if you're using A+ campaigns, it hits different pockets of people.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a much more qualified pocket of person.
Correct.
So although it's more expensive to actually serve those ads, when you look at what the CTR, the outbound CTR is, it's significant. It's 25% higher on whitelist, or 2% versus 1.6. And the conversion rate is significantly higher as well, like 60, 70% higher. So it is, yes, more expensive to serve the ads, but it is at a higher quality pocket.
Yeah, you're getting more bang for your buck, essentially, when you're whitelisting versus the branded. But again, both really do have their place in terms of the funnel and in terms of serving their purposes. Definitely worth doing both as a brand. You know, just doing one versus another, I don't think you're reaching like the whole audience or the whole story aspect of it. One can't go without another, but again, they both have their roles to play in the Meta sort of landscape of things. Got it.
And so with that being said, do you have, I know we've worked with a plethora of different creators at the time. Do you have a breakdown of how each creator did in aggregate, or is that not something available?
We have, we could break it down a little bit further. What this report did was really, obviously we're looking at it as a whole, but then again, this is for the branded breakdown. Then this breaks down how each performer did individually. Sophia, not only on the branded side, but overall was really one of our biggest winners. Sophia and Sarah Saxton, they were our hugest drivers in terms of hook score for the brand. So like they are both really our trademark in terms of the loud visual that I was speaking to. So if we're looking at Sarah, for example, let's pull her up. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear my sound.
Let's see if we can. Go for it.
Yeah.
No, I can't hear the sound, but I'm visualizing it.
It's a big crunch, essentially. I can share, just 1 second.
I think you have to share the tab.
Yeah. There she goes. All right. So this is just, again, it's very TikTok style. It's very raw. It's unpolished, which is what people, again, more and more across the board are appreciating. And it's all about that crunch.
Forget the flowers. This is actually what we want, is a Dubai chocolate. chocolate bar. I made myself a white chocolate one and I added strawberries to it. Even if you don't like white chocolate, this is so good. But you can get it in milk or dark as well. Listen to the crunch.
Yeah, I want one now.
Now I want one. But this goes really, it plays into what I'm talking about is, you know, you have that ASMR and the crunch experience to get people to stop watching, but she's talking about how she made it herself and she added strawberries herself. And she spoke to, you know, I used white chocolate, but they have the milk chocolate available. So that plays into not only that aspect of, again, this is a little bit different. This is a make your own, play your own way. But somebody who's thinking of gifting for somebody, whether it's Valentine's Day or otherwise, it's like, oh, okay, this is something that she can decide, or she or he can decide what they're putting into this chocolate bar. And I don't have to guess about what their favorite flavor is, for example.
So on this report here, if you go back one slide, what are the metrics that you look at as a creative strategist that says, okay, from a creative perspective, this is working quite well, and these are the iterations that we need to make based off of that?
So the first things that I look at really are the engagement scores. So what is the hook? How's the hook doing? The engagement rate. Those are what are really important to me and what tell me like what is working and is not working from a creative perspective. When I see like a higher hook score, I'll listen to the hook and see like, okay, what is it about this hook? And I'll look between, like, let's say this one has a hook score of 80, this one has a hook score of 81. Are they similar hooks in terms of style? Are they similar in terms of sound and what's being said? And then the second thing that I would look at is really through play and hold scores, which conveniently is not on this report. That's helpful. Those as well will tell me, okay, we have the hook and that's working. But if the through play score is a little bit lower or your hold score is a little bit lower, then whatever the rest of the story is or whatever the rest of the creative is not holding people's attention and is not driving people to then later make a conversion, whether it's on this ad or on another ad. Something's stopped, but we're not holding their attention. So I would break it down further in terms of, okay, is there something that has a little bit of a lower hook score, but higher through play? So this one, for example, hook score is a little bit lower at 59, but the through play 15.5 thousand. So what is it about this that might not necessarily be hooking as many people, but people are waiting around to watch and see what she has to say? So if we play this one. So again, similar start in terms of the crunch, showing off the chocolate bar. Again, similar styles, but I would look a little bit deeper in terms of, okay, same thing, but why is this one not grabbing as much attention? It could be that the creator is a little bit less popular than Sarah is. It could be that there is the Christmas tree in the background. So people, if it's not Christmas, are not necessarily thinking about that. Could be any number of things. But if I'm looking into the rest of it, so when I'm looking at this and what is telling me really is she's actually making the chocolate bar and she's showing herself making it. So this to me is catching people's attention because again, this is a little bit different. It's not just a chocolate bar. It's, oh, hang on a second. This is DIY. This is something that I can make myself. I love doing that. Whether it's somebody who loves baking already or whether it's somebody like me who absolutely cannot cook and does not enjoy cooking to save their lives, this is something that I could do. Everything's pre-prepped and ready for me. And I can kind of show it off as something that's like looks like it took way more effort than it actually did. So that's something that makes me kind of stop to think about this one. So
I have a question on this. And this is totally off script, but let's include it anyways. When you go back to that particular video, you click back in there,
So
And
Emma,
we look at the actual hook and hold rates, the video analysis that you see at the bottom right.
Mhm.
I think there's a drop off the moment they swap from the crunch to the making of the actual product, right? Which is also ASMR, to be very clear, but it switches the story. But then there's a whole, like, it doesn't really drop off. Like, people from after the drop off, people hold throughout the entire video.
Exactly. And I mean, there's always going to be like the normalcy here in terms of like a drop off from the hook right away. But to your point, yeah, there is this really sustained curve throughout the video, which is telling me that, you know, even though we haven't caught and held every single person who's seen the ad's attention, which nobody's ever going to do that anyways, something about this in the story is keeping people's attention. So again, to your point, there's that ASMR aspect that carries through, but then there's also this do-it-yourself aspect that people looking at this right away might not have thought or wouldn't have thought that that's what this is all about, right?
Right. So I think we've defined a playbook as to what works in the video space in terms of hook and what really makes up the visuals in terms of ensuring people are holding. But do we know what angles of either copy or headline or video itself that are working as well, like general angles?
Yeah. Again, I think gifting is the biggest one. So if we go back to looking at Sarah, who had the higher hook score, for looking at audience retention, again, kind of what I was talking about, where it drops off a little bit more than the other one did. She's talking about giving a gift. She's saying, look, this is what we want, buy it for us. Us being women. Yeah, so gifting was the biggest winner in terms of overall across the board. So what I would do, which is a bit of a segue, a bit not, but what I would do looking at this ad versus the other one that had the better, you know, retention rate is, okay, how do I let me take this creator, give her a different kind of script where, you know, love what we're doing with the hook. I want you to keep that in there. It's working for you. It's working for your audience. But let's see you making the bar, and let's see you talking about how you can either make it for yourself as a gift, or you can make it with your significant other. You can make it with a friend. You can make it with your mom. You can make it with your kids, whomever. Let's get that gifting angle really in there at the forefront. And as well as the DIY aspect, and see how that kind of changes things in terms of getting people's, you know, retention, or keeping people's retention rather.
Got it. So in terms of how you classify different angles and what's working, is it mostly that you're looking on the ad creative itself, or do you also look at like CPA performance, ROAS performance, or is it mostly, because we're so video heavy in this account, it's hold rate, hook rates, ultimately conversion rates?
Yeah.
Balance of both. Like, how do you personally determine a winner from
It's a balance
perspective?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance for me, like personally as a strategist. And then again, for this brand, you hit it on the head. It's more video heavy. So I'm looking for the most part at, obviously conversions are important, the CPAs are important, but I'm looking when it comes to refreshing content or trying to decide what's doing better or where there's the best opportunity to improve something. To me, that's in the score, that's in the retention rates, the through play, etc.
Got it. And I know we hit really quickly in terms of like, hey, the current breakdown of formats is very heavy on video versus static. Do we have a breakdown of what that looked like overall over the past 2 months?
Yeah. So if we're looking at image versus video, it's pretty clear. Unlike the first, this one here is pretty clear in terms of the winners. Spend is, there's a massive difference in terms of like the amount spent, the percent of spend, the click-through rate is doubled, the ROAS is almost doubled.
Slightly higher, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is higher on the video end, However, that's not to say that the images don't have time and a place and a purpose, because it's not like they didn't perform at all. And this is a good example of a creative that we can look at. So again, this speaks to the gifting aspects. Here, let's open up this one. Here's this first one that I was talking about from the launch. This was the clear winner from an image perspective. Yeah. But if we're looking at this one, the Valentine's gifting angle, you have the fun headline that's going to get people to stop. But one thing that's great about this too, which is a little bit harder to show at least right away from a video aspect, and is not as interesting of an angle to go down from a video perspective, is this refill box idea. So this hits, not only from a gifting perspective, but it hits the people who are already fans of the brand or already know somebody who's a fan of the brand. The fact that refill kits are available are a huge selling point, and something that people might not necessarily know about if they're only seeing the brand through videos.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed as well, if you go back, is when we look in aggregate of CPMs and split, when we originally started, we didn't have any data. We were unsure as to whether statics or videos are going to do. I mean, we had an inclination that videos is going to do well, but yeah, we didn't know, and we had to prove it out. And so when you see the discrepancy in spend, keep in mind, like, we front loaded the majority of our ads to be static. And then after the first 2 weeks, when we looked at our, let's call it postmortem, we knew that statics wasn't really doing great. And we didn't launch any statics up until the Valentine's promotion. Mm-hmm. But as we talk about, at least from a media buying perspective, I know you're coming from a creative perspective, and I think that's what the beauty of this format is that from media buying perspective, there's definitely a time and place for static, right? Like, yep. If we're middle of funnel and we're driving tens of thousands of people a week, and we have a remarketing pool of over 100,000 people, if we can reach them for half the cost, given CPMs are half as expensive, or like twice as cheap, or however way you want to look at it, it makes sense to be running statics in conjunction with video, not to mention the actual resource allocation that's required from a founder, from a marketing team to actually get assets from creators. There's that whole essentially like procurement and communication, and it takes, the lead time could be as quick as a week, but it's usually 2-3 weeks in order to get that asset. Whereas when it comes down to statics, if you have a really good pulse on the account and you know it's working, we can get statics fairly quickly. We can turn that around in 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever that looks like. There's a time and place for static as well.
100%. Yeah. And these are getting really like your high intent kind of purchasers as well, more so than a video would. This is somebody who's already, it's great for somebody who's already kind of interested, like you said, the middle of funnel. And then whatever it is in the static, whether it's, showing the whole box that the person's going to get, or whether there's the aspect of the refill kit coming up on their timeline, it's really going to help, drive that purchase home for somebody who's already looking to purchase and who doesn't necessarily need to see another ASMR video, or who knows already like what the whole shtick is of the brand, for lack of a better.
If they're brand aware and you've already piqued their interest and they're considering the product, I'm sure it is more potent to serve them with another like ASMR, but it's not necessarily necessary to do that. No. They're already aware of what this product is and the type of dopamine hit that they can get.
Exactly. And at a certain point, if they've seen a couple of videos, they're probably going to scroll past the third or fourth one that they see. Right. Whereas these look a little bit different. They speak to the person in a different way, and it's just a different a different way of targeting that person, like, as you said, who's already seen the videos, who doesn't necessarily need to see another one, but who's pretty certain that they're going to go ahead and make that purchase. Maybe they saw the video a couple days ago, they forgot about it, and then they see this come up and they're like, oh yeah, okay. I see the brand as a whole. I see the name of the brand pop up right away, which that is something else you don't get in video. And it returns the product back to the person's top of mind. And it's a lot easier to then click from the static directly to the site to make the purchase.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So let's package it all together. And looking back at the entire journey over the last 2.5 months of Chalkbox, everything we've covered in this series, what would you isolate as the biggest win for you? And if you had to recommend a path forward for the client, basically provide them with a playbook, what would you recommend to them?
I would definitely recommend leaning more into what they do very well on TikTok, which is founder content. That's something that, really started blowing up organically, not just on TikTok, but on social media in general. But brands really within the last couple of years are leaning more and more into using founder content in their paid advertisement, because it's another way of, not only humanizing your brand, but speaking directly to your customer and getting that trust of like, this is who we are, this is who I am, I'm not above getting into the nitty gritty and speaking directly to my customers. I want to spark that connection with my customers personally instead of somebody else speaking for me. So that would definitely be the next avenue that I would play into with them, would be the UGC. In terms of wins for me, on a personal level, this was certainly some of the most fun that I've had on a brand, working on a brand, because they're so unapologetic and because I was able to have so much fun with the headlines, with the loud visuals. That's something that I love. Anytime that I can throw in a pun, I'm happy. So that was great for me. And it did, again, it was, we did that more on statics than anything else. So it wasn't like it was a huge explosive win, so to speak, but it was nice to see that it did do well overall, and it spoke to people, it spoke to their audience. And then were we to continue with this, it would be a great avenue to kind of pick up and carry through into videos and start experimenting with. And, if I were to write more founder content for them, I would definitely weave that in.
Okay, that's great. You kind of already hit the nail on the head of my follow-up question, which would have been like, a lot of founders are trying to figure out what is the best way to take their own creative direction. And you've already mentioned like founder-led content, but does that lead to like authenticity? Like, what is one other tip that you have in terms of, hey, I'm speaking to another creative strategist, we're shooting the shit in the room.
Yep.
What type of tips do you have for either a creative strategy team or founders or operators or marketing teams to help enhance their ads program?
Definitely staying genuine, not only to yourself, but to your brand. Just because something's trending and something's doing well doesn't mean that it's going to work for your brand, or doesn't mean that it's something that you should jump on. Even for founder content, if you're not comfortable on camera and it's not something that you are going to enjoy, don't do it. This McDonald's fiasco that just happened is a perfect example of that. If it's not for you, you don't have to twist your arm to make it for you, because viewers, especially today, are not stupid. They can see through the BS in a heartbeat. So you want to make sure whatever it is that you're doing works for you, is something that you can put your own personal spin on, and you're not just regurgitating a trend because you saw it working for somebody else.
Right.
But yeah, so that's from like the founder and a personal standpoint. And then again, from your brand, from a brand perspective, there's a fine line between, if you have your brand ethos and your brand, look and feel, there's something to be said about, not being afraid to step outside the box a little bit and saying like, ooh, this seems maybe a tiny bit not on brand for us, in the sense that it doesn't hit every single factor that we've outlined in our sort of in our brand book. Take that step, experiment, especially if you're still at the end of the day speaking to your audience. And if you see that there's something that an audience is relating to in your content, which you haven't lent into because you feel like, again, you're stepping a little bit outside of the box, don't be afraid to do that. Again, it shows authenticity. It shows that genuine angle of, okay, we see you, we hear you listening to us. We know you want more of this. Here's our version of it. So there's a line between that. And then there's a line between, screw the box. Let's just hop onto this because it's working for everybody else, even though it has nothing to do with our brand, has nothing to do with our voice. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to film this. I don't think this works for us whatsoever. There's definitely that fine line that you have to walk. But if you're open to it as a founder, to, experimenting with that founder content, then, go for it. See what you can do, lean into your team, see what ideas they have. You can even soft launch yourself in some ways, like lean on other members who are a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera, to have them start and have you work your way into it, and then see how your audience reacts. Do they want more of it? Do they want less of it? Could they care less? Are they commenting? Are they engaging with your stuff? And give the audience what they want, basically.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Amy, listen, I want to thank you twofold. Number one, this is the first format we've ever done like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many golden nuggets that I think every founder and operator and marketing team will take out of it. You really, really know your stuff. So that's number one. And number two, I want to just recap that we did something in such a concentrated period. We had 2 months, 8 weeks to go from $0 to $100,000 in sales via meta ads.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get there. We got 66% of the way there.
Yeah.
That's 66,000 profitable dollars, more than they had before. And we've launched, I think that the math was like 98 ads when you pulled it up.
Yep.
98 individual ads over 8 weeks. That's like 12 ads a week or something like that. So the effort that you put in doesn't go unseen. We have a clear path forward for the brand.
Mm-hmm.
We've built some momentum and we couldn't have done it without you. So I want to say thank you for that. I know you're behind the scenes the entire time, but you did a great job, and we appreciate you for everything you do here at Growth Collective. So thank you very much for the time.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Sweet. Okay, that wraps it up, guys. That wraps it up.